I would like to see the overwhelming majority of the country vaccinated before we get to the end of the second quarter. Because I would like to see children, adults, everyone, so that when we get into the fall season, the children could feel really safe at going back to school. The teachers can feel safe that they're not going to get infected. We can get back to the economy being robust. Restaurants can open to full capacity. That's what I'd like to see. But you're not going to see it, Mark, unless the overwhelming majority of people get vaccinated. So in that sense, I would like to see the reluctant people get vaccinated sooner rather than later. If they want to wait a month or so, that's okay. That might be in accordance with the pace of being able to implement. But I don't want them to wait 6 to 8 to 9 months. I think they should do it within that period of the first 2 quarters of 2021.
Got it. And what do you think is the best argument to convince those people that taking the vaccine during that time frame is the right decision for their and their families' health?
Well, because as long as you're susceptible, you're part of the problem, not part of the solution. When you're protected, you're another person the virus can't impact. Whereas if you're vulnerable, even if you don't get a lot of symptoms, the fact that you've been infected means you are inadvertently propagating the outbreak. So if you want to be part of the solution, get vaccinated and say, I'm not going to be one of the people that's going to be a stepping stone for the virus to go to somebody else. I'm going to be a dead end to the virus.
This is a fundamental question about science these days. And I'm curious if there's any kind of wisdom that you would want to share with people about kind of the perspective on risk benefit in thinking through this.
Well, you're onto something there, Mark, and that's something we deal with in medicine all the time. Because when you're dealing with either the treatment or the prevention of disease, that you're going to do interventions, and there are no interventions of anything that don't have some risk. It might be a minuscule risk, but it's nothing. It's nothing that is completely free of risk. You take an aspirin, there is a risk for some people for an aspirin. So the way we deal with it, we deal with what's called relative risk and risk-benefit relationship. So if you look at the risk, the relative risk of an adverse event with a vaccine, and look at the history of vaccinology, it is one of the safest interventions that you can do. If you look at the benefit is to you as an individual and to society, particularly in the context of this terrible challenge we're being faced with this horrible pandemic that this world, this planet is living through, that an intervention like a vaccine that historically has very, very little risk, the risk-benefit ratio overwhelmingly. But then you gave, well, wait a minute, some people say, well, you know, this is a new risk. I'm bothered by it a bit. I mean, I don't know it. I really want an absolute safety at all. You got to think about the things that you do every day, the decisions that you make about risks that you take, getting up in the morning, getting in your car and going to work, that the benefit of the getting to a job that's going to support your family is overwhelmingly better than the risk that you're going to get into a problem with driving to work. But yet you accept it. I mean, it's a risk that you accept. I think what we have to do is make sure we get people to understand that the relative risk of this compared to other risks is minuscule. When they understand that, they'll understand that it isn't zero, but it's completely overwhelmed by the benefit that you would get.